Question I have for you, Brad, is the most consequential legislation you think outside of ESAs, because this is TPPF, so we have to say that.
I'll let you guys handle that one.
Yeah, outside of ESAs. What do you think the most consequential legislation will have the most impact on Texas?
I think it's got to be the water deal that was made. The state, with how much it's growing in population, it's going to need a lot more water over the next 50 years to support not just the population growth, but also the business growth that we're experiencing. Companies are definitely taking into account not just the power grid and their ability to get electricity when they need it, but also water supply. And it's just going to be very difficult to do it over the next 50. It's been difficult to build new water supply over the last 50 years, and that's why we're kind of in this pickle. And so the state allocated $2.5 billion immediately to the Water Development Board for projects for new, I think it's like the split's half and half, new projects versus existing, like fixing leaky pipes and whatnot. But overall, down for 20 more years, they're committing $1 billion every year, provided voters approve it at the ballot box this November. But without water, it's one of the basic necessities of life. Without water, the state's economic growth is going to take a hit. Yeah. And if they can figure this out, this is a good step in the right direction. But there's going to be a lot more that needs to be done to actually put things, build reservoirs or find new ways to do things like desalination plants. I'm going to go with the water deal that they did.
And Derek, on that one, that's one of those bills where you wouldn't think, conservatives generally don't like putting a bunch of money into a program, and spending a bunch of money, $20 billion. Is there a more efficient way we could do that? But that's one of those things. I mean, if there is something called a utility, certainly access to water would meet that definition, and that is absolutely something that the government should be able to guarantee to individuals.
Well, it's similar with public safety, right? Like we can all agree that public safety is a core part of
you don't want private courts and private police forces.
No, and that's why we're paying our judges so well. I'm surprised you left that one on the table. That and daylight savings time, man. What's wrong with you?
Oh man, I don't have that on my list. I gotta get
no,
Texas time.
But like to the point is that we had such a large outlay for Operation Lone Star for the years past. People would be like, "That's a lot of money," and it's like it is, but there also is compelling. There's a compelling issue. Now, should the Texas citizen be footing that versus the U.S. citizen? That's where I think we can have a robust policy argument on that. But no, that is a central function of government, is to provide utilities. That's we come out of the state of nature to dig pipe trenches. I think Rawls said.
All right, Rousseau.
I think all that to say is that was a big one. The most consequential, at least in terms of the end there, because I thought it was. I said facetiously the judicial pay raise. It's funny though, because the judicial pay raise, I forget the number here, but that was one line on a 24-page bill. The rest of the bill had to do with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. So I was paying an awful lot of attention for the first 23 pages of that bill. But towards the end, though, the issue of judicial pay raises popped up. Now, I'm not saying it's the most consequential, because unless you're a judge, you're not going to feel it. But that threatened, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, because you definitely had your ear closer to the ground on that one. That could have been the special fodder. That could have been the trigger had that not gone across the finish line, because both the outgoing Chief Justice, the incoming Chief Justice, the governor have all recognized that we haven't had a judicial pay raise, in what was it, since 2013. Yeah. And I'll be the first to tell you, I serve on the Commission for Judicial Conduct. Not all judges deserve a pay raise. There are some who probably deserve a cut, to say the least. But that being said, if that is going to be what you are indexing legislative retirement to after a certain vesting period, that's where it becomes a political football. And that's where I think we were going to have there were some times there in the last 2-3 days of session where I was like, this is going to blow it up. It's going to be this. But luckily that didn't come. Now, consequential, though, you said ESAs. I'd have to say, and this would be interesting, I think that one of the most consequential, because I think it kind of lays down a yard marker, is and this is a minor housekeeping bill, but moving the lottery from the Lottery Commission to to TDLR. I think that tells you everything you need to know about the future of the lottery here in Texas. Now that's speculative, but that was my reading of those tea leaves.
Yeah, because it's cleaned out all the areas for fraud, and if you want to, because it didn't get rid of the lottery, right? It just so what is
not yet.
It's got a 2-year trial period.
Yeah,
and we'll see how it works under TDLR. But
I don't buy lottery tickets. I mean, I know some people are really into that, so I don't know. We'll see if it.
When Clint sends out the Powerball when it's
It was funny when that bill was on the House floor. My grandpa called me. He says, I just won $20,000 on a scratch-off ticket. What the?
Whoa!
Yeah, what timing for that?
Yeah.
Then I said,
did your grandpa get paid $50 per tweet? Come on.
I'm gonna save it for my under the radar bill, but I hope the most consequential bill is SB 12, which does a lot of things, and I'm gonna talk about it in a little bit. But I hope that it really starts to change the culture in schools, and a lot of schools where parents start to get much more involved and understand what's really going on in the classrooms if they don't already. I mean, if you're a parent and you know exactly what your kids are reading every day and learning, and you have a great relationship with your teachers, God bless you, and I'm glad it's that way. But for a lot of people, that's not the case, and that's the way the schools want it. And so hopefully SB 12 will start to move all schools in a different direction. But I think the bail reform for sure. That's going to save people's lives. I mean, that's going to keep people in jail who are threats. And I think we talked with Nikki Presley from Right on Crime here, and this crazy this crazy procedure where people have to get bail in Texas. It's not like that in other states, and then they have to get bail commensurate with their ability to pay the bail, which is also insane because it should be commensurate with the threat level, and we're seeing that with people getting out on bail and then committing more crimes. And so hopefully giving that power, again, it doesn't require the judges to deny bail, but it gives them the ability to, which is crazy they never had that in the first place.
And you're definitely right that is a consequential bill. The reason I did not go with that for mine, though, is remember the biggest part of that we're not going to know until November whether or not it takes effect. And it's not as controversial a thing as, say, raising the age of the judiciary as it was the last time through. It's a little Easter egg for those who follow. But yeah, so that what you described, we're still waiting on the vote in November to see that makes it into the Constitution.